everyone. My name is Eric Marks from the Motion Picture Sound Editors Board of Directors. Some MPSE announcements. The 2021 MPSE Golden Reel Award nominations will be announced this coming Monday, March 1st. That's less than a week away. And the 2021 MPSE Golden Reel Awards event, which will be held virtually this year, is on April 16th. You can stay up to date with all of the latest information on our website, mpse.org. Tonight, we're joined by two very special guests. The first was a recordist and then a re-recording mixer before working in technical operations at Paramount. He is now the Vice President of Product Innovation at Deluxe Entertainment, where he oversees the localization and audio groups there. I'm honored to be joined by Greg Taieb. Greg, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having us. We're really excited to do this event. Excited to show what we've got and answer questions, and happy to see some familiar faces.
Great, thank you. Our second guest has been in audio post-production for 15 years and was most recently an engineer for the Deluxe dubbing and ADR facilities at their Hollywood facility on Seward Street. It's a pleasure to be joined by the audio technical operations lead at Deluxe Entertainment, George Hart. How are you tonight, George?
Doing well, Eric. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for coming. Yeah, no, we're just really excited to show you guys. I think we have something pretty good here. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, Greg and George, I'm sure everyone's itching to hear about what OneDub is and how it all works. So please take it away.
Thanks very much. So I'll start sharing my screen just right off the bat. But I wanted to start with a little spiel about the product. So this is something that's been in development for about 5 years now. So it's not a COVID tool. It's something that we've been working on. I left Paramount specifically to work on this tool, actually, and then ended up working on a lot of other things in between. But it's something that we see as a great value for remote recording, but there's a lot of other value that it brings. And ultimately for recordists and post-production studios, we see it as something that will eventually just be part of your tool belt and something that you can use in a lot of different applications, and we'll cover some of those during the demo. I'll just dive right in, really. So I'm going to actually move some of my Zoom windows for a moment, and I'm going to open the OneDub app. I'll start by saying that this is all web-based, so I'm in a Google Chrome browser right now. I have projects that are assigned to me. I'm going to open this project right here, and it's going to launch a web app. Now, this app was developed, and sorry, I hear some people unmuting sometimes. This app was developed with the idea of collaboration in mind. So really, it's built for a director, an actor, and an audio engineer, and anybody else, producers or anybody else that wants to join a session to work together on a remote recording, or an in-studio recording as well. In terms of remote recording, there are some tools. There are a lot of different tools on the market. There are things that sets this apart from others. But essentially, the idea is that in terms of self-recording, actors shouldn't be self-recording. I like to say that you can have the nicest studio in the world with the best sound treatment, the best microphones and mic pre's and what have you. But if you ask an actor to sit down and record their ADR themselves, you're probably not going to get a professional sounding result. So this is really built for engineers to control sessions, for actors and directors to log in and basically just go right into full screen mode, watch playback of video, be recorded, and not have to worry about anything else. The setup is extremely easy. It is plug and play with USB microphones or with an audio interface. And George, before I dive into actually showing the tools, is there anything else that that you would add?
I mean, I think I would just add that, in addition to ease of use for other people, for engineers and everybody else, we certainly understand how frustrating it can be to learn a new tool, to learn a new DAW. Nobody wants to do that. So we've taken great strides to make it very familiar right off the bat. So even if you've never been in the tool, we really feel that you can quickly get up and running with little to no instruction. So that was definitely something that we had in mind when we were designing this.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's, I've gone through the frustration of learning a new DAW, and I've in the past purchased new DAWs and new software, used it for a few days and said, no, thank you, and moved on to the next one, or moved back to the original. So when we built this, we really thought about how, about making engineers feel at home right off the bat. So I'll go through the interface. I'll go through the sections of the interface. I'll show some bells and whistles that we've built in for the actors and for the directors, and of course for you, the audio engineers. And we'll pause for some questions from Eric along the way, if he has any questions that he thinks are on everybody's mind. And then we'll go into an actual recording. So we will do a remote recording, and then we'll pause and we'll go to a full Q&A. So if you have questions, I know everybody can unmute their mics right now. Please try not to jump in and ask a question in the middle. Chances are it will get answered, but if it doesn't, then we can get to those questions at the end. All right, so let's start. I'm going to go into full screen mode. So again, it is all web-based, so nobody has to download any software. The director, the actors, you, all you need is a Google Chrome browser and Mac or a PC. I'm going to go into full screen mode. I'll cover the video player first, then I'll cover the script section, then we'll get into the DAW, and then we'll get into a demo recording. Again, I'll pause a couple times for Eric to ask some questions or George to add some commentary. So basically what we have here is an HTML5 player. It's pretty straightforward. It plays video. It's very responsive. Also, I should make sure that I am sharing my computer sound before I go in here any further.
Just a reminder for everyone, if you do have questions for Greg or George or about this platform while presenting, please type them out in the chat and I'll go through them.
That's right. Yeah. So if you type them in the chat, we'll get back to them later. So the HTML5 player is ultra responsive. There's a few things that I want to pause with the player because it's a video player, like how much can we have to say about it? But there are a lot of really cool things about it. The first one for your clients is security. This platform allows you to record remotely or on-prem in studio without ever having to receive a video file. So some examples of places where that works well for people like the people on this webinar are remote recording an actor. Let's say you have an actor that's recording ADR 3 months after a shoot is over, and they're now in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and they want to record out of a small studio that's not been vetted for security or anything like that. This is a tool that allows you to record them remotely, have control of the session, provide the video files, and record the audio without anybody in that studio being able to get their hands on a downloadable video file. So from a security standpoint, that's huge. Paramount, for example, has made this their tool of choice for remote recording from their security department standpoint, at least. It also keeps a security log. So anytime that anybody logs in to the session or into the platform, there's a record of that. Anytime that they click into a web app and access video, there's detailed security logs. So the security is really buttoned up. This is based on a platform that Deluxe uses for a lot of pre-release work for a lot of the biggest clients and shows on the market. And we've actually been using this platform for years for things like translating subtitles, doing QCs, all other types of things. The other thing you'll notice, and then I'll move on from the video player, I've already spoken too much about it, but there's also I have my IP address and email address overlaid on picture here. You can mark a title as a high security title, and then that will create like a wallpaper of not my IP address, but whoever's logged in, their IP address, email address, and the date will be wallpapered over video. Let's move on from the video player because there's not that much left to talk about. But one thing I will say right now is that you can have a director, an actor, other people log into the session, and everybody's video player is controlled by the operator. So right now I actually see Eric is in this session with me over here. George will join at some point, and when I do, I'll see a little icon for George showing that he's joined as well. So you could see who has access, who's in the session with you, and there's George right there. We'll talk more about this little Google Sheets-like functionality, this collaboration feature. But I wanted to point that out, that anybody who's in the session, you can see, and that's part of the access logs also. From a script perspective, last thing about the video player, and I think I already said this, but because of that session control, the operator having control of the session, nobody else needs to touch any buttons. They don't need to hit play or stop or turn on the volume, unmute a track. So because of that, when the actor joins a session, they can just go right into full screen mode and sit back and focus on delivering the performance that they need to deliver. And same thing as the director. If they don't want to see the audio regions and so on and so forth, they don't have to see that. Some like doing that. So the next section is the script section. And as you might have just noticed, I can hide different sections. I can manipulate the sections so that if I really want to see all the audio tracks, I can slide that up and see more audio tracks. If I want to see more of the script editor, I can slide that up as well. So right now, let's go into this session a little deeper. And let me zoom in. So here we have the script section. I could see all of the characters and the lines. Let's say we're just recording this character right here. I believe the character is Frank. Then I can just come in and say, all right, we're recording ADR for Frank right now. And it'll just show me Frank's cues on the timeline down here. Now, all these cues are automatically created. They can be imported. You can use the tool to create the cue sheet or the cues, but you can also import them into the session. We support standard like EditCue exports, ADR Manager, Voice Cue, and a bunch of other tools like that. So you can import a script. It'll automatically create the cues that you can then jump to. So I can jump from cue to cue really easily. So let's say we've finished recording this line for the character of Frank. We can just hit a button and move to the next line really easily. If I'm recording two characters at once, let's say we have Frank and Luis in the studio and I want to see both of their lines up here, I can select as many characters or hide as many characters as I want. Let's just show Luis actually for a little bit. Here you have a script editor. So if you're on the line, let's say this is the line right here, dude, you can't see if from here. That's actually a typo, so this is great. I can actually correct this live. You can't see it from here or from there. I'm here, it was like 2 feet out. Thrilling, compelling dialogue, but so you can edit the script here. So if the director wants to edit the line or change the line, or let's say they want to add a new line, I can actually edit the line. It was like 2 feet out of bounds. You can see that it updates on the video here. Let me make that script a little larger. This updates on the video for everybody in the session, the actor, the director, and the director can change the line as well. You don't have to be the person to do it as the operator. If the director wants to go in and change lines, they can do that. You can also add new lines to a session just by clicking and dragging. So right now I have the character of Luis selected. If I click and drag here on the timeline, that's added a box for a line. And now I can type in this box and add, this is a new line. And now it appears on the screen for the actor and everyone else and so on and so forth. I'm actually going to delete this line. But when I added that line, I've also added the ability to automatically add beeps and things like that to that queue. Aside from that, you have access to a few notes sections. So you have annotations, which is more for a dubbing workflow. Typically, translators get annotations about the original English version. It doesn't really apply to ADR, but it is a field that you can take notes. Or if you have cue names that are non-sequential, like let's say Frank's cues or Luis's cues are named LS327, LS328, LS329, you can import those cue numbers here and then search and jump to them very easily just by hitting Command F and doing a search for that cue number. So let's say you're at the beginning of a session and you want to jump to cue FS 110, you could just type in FS 110, hit enter, and it'll bring you to that cue number. You also have internal notes that can be added. This could be director's notes for the mixer or for the dialogue editor. It could be the recordist's notes. Let's say you have 5 takes of a cue and you want the director loves take number 2, but take 3 is a good alternate line. You could write take 3 is a good alternate take if take 2 doesn't work. That can automatically be sent to the next person in the supply chain if it's your dialogue editor or anyone. It could be exported and sent as a time-coded CSV file against that cue number. One of the coolest features about this is it's a small feature, but it has a really big impact, and I've seen it make a difference at this point dozens of times. But because we have the script cues in the session, let me just record myself for a second on this line. I'll set up beeps and I'll add a little bit of pre-roll, 3 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and record myself for this line. Out. It's a very difficult one that I gave myself there. So let's say I've recorded myself for this line. One of the really cool features from the tool is if there's a line that exists in your cue sheet or in the script, and at the end of the session, let's say we've recorded this actor for the day, we've gotten all the lines that we need to get, and it looks like we're done, and the actor's putting on his hat and getting out the door, or in this case, in today's day and age, logging out of Zoom and closing the session. There's a check where you can see if there's a script line that exists for which there's no corresponding audio. So for example, here I have a line and there's an audio region that corresponds to the in and out time codes of this line. Here, there's another line that doesn't have that audio there. So I can hit a check that lets me know if there's any boxes for which there's a script line that we didn't record audio for. Now, of course, it doesn't hold you, like it doesn't prevent you from moving forward or closing out the session or delivering assets to your dialogue editor. It just lets you know. But it's really handy. And again, dozens of times in the last 9 months, we've been in situations where a director and an engineer say, all right, we're done. Thanks, everybody. Let's close up this session. And immediately they realize, actually, there's 3 more lines that we didn't see that we need to record. So that's a pretty cool feature. George, is there anything I'm missing on the script that you would add?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you said it's basically a collaborative effort. You can, anybody can change the lines as needed. Generally you would designate that at the beginning, but yeah, it's just really dynamic. And just having the script in here, it doesn't have to be the whole script. It can be per character, because for ADR, it's usually, 1 character at a time. But I totally forgot what my ultimate point was, but it's a way that you can easily do it. And my point, I now remember, was the engineer doesn't have to spend time at the beginning of the session queuing it up. It basically, this does all the queuing, and you're not moving a beeps file around. You can turn beeps on or off based on those queues. So it saves a lot of time just for the setup, just because of that.
I think assistants everywhere can rejoice in that. I definitely remember 15 years ago setting up markers for every cue that we needed to record, and it was not fun. Although I got really good at hitting command equals, entering time codes, and creating a marker. That's a skill I won't need to use anymore. I think this is a good natural pause to see if there's any questions, Eric, that you can, that you have. Again, general questions can be saved for the end, but Eric, if you have any questions or you see anything in the chat that popped out as something that might be appropriate to dive into now, anything?
Yeah, there are a couple. One was Balon asks, does the script portion support final draft?
It doesn't support final draft. It's more of a time-coded script, although you can import a script from final draft into the tool. So the script importing is really easy. I mean, you basically just go into File, Import Script, and then you choose. You can choose interactive script reader. So there are some script formats that we support, and you can select them down here. Otherwise, if you have a script that's exported in a grid format, like an Excel, a PDF that has columns and rows, or a Word doc that has columns and rows, you can really easily load that script in and then just say column A is timecode in, column B is timecode out, column C is script name. So it really easily lets you import any formats that we don't support. But ultimately, if it's just like a final draft script that has like, the interior, the setting description and the action and the actor, the actor or the character name and then the line, you can import that. And we actually import scripts like that for some of our other non-audio workflows. It's a little more painstaking, I think, than importing something that's in a grid. But you can do it. It's not impossible. I would say it'll probably take you 15, 20 minutes before you build the rules in interactive script parser that work well for a non-time coded script like that.
We had another question, this is from Brent Finley. Are the beeps an audio file that we can change, like the beeps leading up to a line, or are they triggered by MIDI and not changeable?
They're not triggered by MIDI. They are triggered from the system. You can't change them, although that's a first. I haven't heard that request, but that should be something to implement semi-easily. Something else to add, we have a pretty great development team. So we're doing new releases of the product every 3 weeks. At some point, we're going to slow down a little bit, because of how much engagement we've gotten and how many sessions we've done, and how quickly we've spun up the tool. We've had a rather large development team. As time goes on and we get to like our core features being complete, it'll taper down and it won't be 3-week releases. Also because people don't really want 3-week releases. It'd be kind of annoying to like every time you log in, there's a new feature. But we are pretty close with all of the users. We like to keep our ear to the street, as I like to say. And we work basically in terms of new features that people ask for. We figure out how much of an impact it has to the global user base, and basically adjust our roadmap based on that. Now, if it's a small thing where it's like 1 day of development and, and it impacts a lot of people, that's a clear no-brainer that'll move to the front. But if it's something that's really particular to like a personal preference of one engineer, then it might not be at the top of the list. But that one's an interesting one, and I could see a few reasons why, if it's, bleed through or things like that. Yeah. So that's something we'll note that down. And it's not something we currently support, but we might support it in the future if a lot of people.
Okay. Yeah. Last question, just for the moment. Can the directors or engineers' notes be hidden from the actors in this platform?
That is in development. So that is an example of a feature that we've gotten a lot of requests for. And that is on our roadmap. And it's currently, I don't know if it's actually being developed in our current sprint, but it'll be in an upcoming sprint. So right now, no, but very soon that will be available.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, so let's keep going through here. I'll go into the next section here. I'm going to go through, next up, we'll do this transport bar and kind of the little features hidden in here. We'll talk about the session sync, and then we'll get to the actual DAW. So transport bar is pretty straightforward. You know, you have your play, your stop, your record. You can jump from one queue to another. So this button lets you jump from queue to queue. There's hotkeys for all of these things as well. And the hotkeys are here. They're searchable. So if you want to see like, how can I split a clip? You can just type split and you can see, all right, splitting a clip is Command E. And now I've split a clip and I can move it. Aside from that, we have, this is the original, this is the volume slider for the audio that came with the video file. The engineer, whoever has control of the session, controls level overall for the session. They also control mute and unmute and things like that. And we'll get back to, we'll get to that again in a moment. Here you can hide the script. So let's say an actor doesn't like the script on screen. They think it's distracting. They want to read off a sheet of paper. You can hide it from the screen. You can change the size of the script as well. So if they want to see it, if they want a bigger size script on screen, you could do that. There's also kind of a karaoke feature where you can see rough timing of a line. So if I hit play here, and unmute.
Mine. And the ball was so in.
Dude, you can't see it from there. I'm here. It was like 2 feet out.
Are you?
All right. So, so you could see that the karaoke feature kind of gives you rough beginning and end timing of a line. You can turn that off if the actor finds that distracting as well. We also have another way to view the script on screen, which is kind of like a Ritmo band style, where you can see the lines coming in. So if I hit play, let me change the size. So if I hit play, you'll see.
So in. Out of your mind. And the ball was so in.
Dude, you can't see it from there. I'm here. It was like 2 feet
You
out.
can actually see that the script's not totally in sync here. But I can adjust the script as well. And we'll get back to that in a second. So there's another view for the script on screen where you could see character separation and you can see upcoming lines so that the actor doesn't have to like keep looking back down at their sheet and looking back up. The next line is always served and you can see as it passes through the frame. So this is kind of a timing indicator of when the line should be spoken. What else? Here's where you choose your input. So you can choose an input. Right now I have a USB mic plugged in. You can have a, you can use an audio interface. You can use your aggregate IO. You can use a virtual channel as an input as well. So that's where you set that. Now, in upcoming releases, we're going to have the ability to record, to select channels within your audio interface. And not only that, but to select them for every actor that's logged into the session. So if you're recording, 6 actors in a loop group, you'll be able to select the channel that you're recording from for each actor directly from this interface as well. So that's an upcoming release, I think, that we have slated for 6 weeks from now-ish, give or take. You can also hide parts of the screen. So we're done with the script section, demoing it. So let's get a nice big video player. You can also go into full screen from here and so on and so forth. This is pre-roll and post-roll, and you can turn it on and off by clicking this button, or there's also a hotkey for that, which I actually don't know what that hotkey is. So pre-post roll on off. Command K. There we go. So I can hit Command K and turn the pre-roll and post-roll on and off. This turns beeps on and off for the whole, for every line that you have loaded. So if you select the character of Luis, this will turn beeps on for all of Luis's lines, or off for all of Luis's lines. Or I can right-click on each individual line and turn cues on or off for those. So if you have like one line, let's say you have this version of the script on, and you actually want to record 3 cues in one go because they're close together, you can actually turn the beeps on for the first line and then turn them off for the subsequent line, so the actor just doesn't have tons of beeps playing in their ear while they're trying to focus on their performance. You have center playhead. So if I click center playhead, usually I explain what center playhead means, but since I'm demoing to MSPE, you guys all know what center playhead is, and we have it. You can zoom in and zoom out. You can also zoom in and zoom out on the waveform, so magnify the waveform. So for example, let's say we have a line that's really soft and you want to amplify it. I mean, this isn't a good example because all these lines are shouted, but if you want to amplify, zoom in on the waveform, you can do that to help you line up your recorded audio to maybe what's on the original track, or even just see references of, visually see references of what's going on the track. We have copy and paste, cut, undo, redo, and of course, all the standard hotkeys for copy and paste are there. So if I click on this and hit copy, or highlight it and hit copy, I can paste it anywhere I want with Control V, Control C. We have an auto dip feature. So this is pretty cool. So this is basically cuts out any at any in time code of where there's a script line and any out time code, so you don't have to ride your mute button. So if I hit play right now, I have that feature engaged.
What?
Out.
Yes, that ball was so in.
Out.
Out of your mind. And that ball was so.
So it cut out for that time code, and it's going to cut in at the end of the line.
Are you serious?
Also, you heard all those outs because I copied and pasted the line a bunch of times. But yeah, so let me turn the pre and post roll off. Again, it'll cut out the audio right at the beginning of the cue and then cut it back in, from your reference track at the end of the cue.
And that ball was so.
Export options. There are a few export options. You can export your raw audio, which will export all of your individual 24-bit, 48K, uncompressed PCM WAV files, which I haven't mentioned up until now. And I should have mentioned, this records natively in 24-bit, 48K, PCM, uncompressed. So that's really what I think sets it from a quality standpoint, sets it apart from everything else in the market. No Opus streaming codec that's capped off at like MP3 quality. It's full 24-bit, 48K, uncompressed. What's been the industry standard for 15, 20 years now is available in this tool, and not really in any other remote recording tools. So you can export your raw audio. You can export consolidated audio. So if you do that, then you just get a mono audio file for each track that has audio on it. Or the real way to go is to export an AAF file that exports a session that plays really nicely with any of your other existing DAWs that you're using. So you can import a session into an existing session, or you can open this as its own session. It'll have all of the tracks. It'll have all of the edits that you made. It will retain any edits that you made. So for example, let me record this line real quick just to give us something to play with. Let me set myself up with some beeps. Also, I don't remember what this line is, so it's not going to be a great performance, but you guys can forgive that. Let's turn the pre-roll and post-roll on.
Are you serious?
It was out. It was my call, gentleman's call. It was out.
Blind. You're blind.
I'm fired. But so basically, if I make any edits here, like let's say I cut this piece out and moved it over here, that'll exist in the AAF session as it does here. But let's say I mistakenly delete this this piece of audio, and now I import it into my other DAWs. I can just trim this back out with the AAF export. This will be a fragment of a master audio file when you import it into your other DAWs, so you don't lose any hidden information. And then also that pre-roll, by the way, that I had, it records all of that as well, so that you, if an actor starts early or ends late, you can pick up what they recorded in between the lines, or I guess outside of the lines. I think so. AAF is really the way to go. And George, is there anything else that you would add before we get into session sync?
You know, it's funny. I was going to say that we had not mentioned 24-bit 48K, which is obviously a huge distinguishing point, but you realized it before I said anything. But yeah, other than that, just kind of elaborating a little bit more on the 24-bit 48K is a very fundamental difference of this program versus really any other remote recording solution is that as opposed to recording over the internet, we're really using the internet to facilitate a recording. And at the end of the day, that's how we're able to do full quality audio and actually have it be on a timeline as opposed to near full quality that you then have to spend days editing down.
Yep. It's a great point. So I'm going to dive into the session sync feature, but even before I do, this is really this is the coolest feature that we're about to get into. And I'm kind of amazed by it every time that I use it. But just to show you some of the things that we can do, I'm editing this audio. I mean, I'm not making any meaningful edits, but you can see that I'm manipulating it. I'm trimming it. George, why don't you get in here and edit track 1 while I'm editing track 3. So you'll notice I'm editing everything on track 3. Meanwhile, you see there's some stuff happening on track 1 and track 2, and that's George is in this session also. So you can have multiple editors in a session, multiple engineers in a session. So if you're on a really fast turnaround and a director and actor don't have a lot of time, you can go through and you can have a director, engineer, and actor working online, on the 25th cue that they're recording, and you can have a dialogue editor trailing them and editing the dialogue to make sure that the sync and everything and the quality is perfect, and that lets you move faster with the actor and director to get the lines out of the way and not have to worry as much about let's fix this in post and then maybe find out afterwards this is actually a really difficult line to fix. So that's a really cool thing you can do. And to be honest, there's a lot of different things you can do with this feature. Whether it's, I think one of my favorite use cases is you've recorded a take and now the director and actor are shooting shit, pardon my French. They're talking and they're chatting, and you don't want to interrupt them and be like, hey guys, I need to edit this line real quick. What you can do is you can turn session sync off, let them continue to chat and play back just for yourself. So let's see, actually, George over here. I could see George's icon. He's in the session. If he turns session sync off, you could see that green dot has disappeared from his icon. It might be difficult to see over Zoom, but that basically means that now I'm the engineer. When I hit play, it plays Gentleman's Call. It plays on Eric's computer, but because George isn't subscribed to the sync, it's not playing back on his computer. He can move into a different area of the session. And you can see, of course, that. So if somehow somebody unhooks themselves from sync and it seems like they're not working, you just look right over here and you can see, okay, you're not synced up to the session. So let's fix that really quickly. George, do you want to hit that green sync button? And you're back. But from an engineer perspective, that use case that I was talking about before, if George and Eric are chatting, I can turn sync off. And now I can hit play and edit this line and keep playing it back. They're not hearing it. They're not seeing it on their side. And once they're done chatting, I can say, guess what, guys? I edited this line while you guys were chatting, and it's good. Let's play it back, or we can move to the next line. So that's a really cool feature. And now I turned it back on. Everybody's now subscribed to me again. Aside from that, we talked about how you can see who's in the session. We've had sessions with 25 people in them. It's kind of crazy. I haven't hit the limit yet of how many people we've had in a session where it hasn't worked. Although I will say, if you have 25 people in a session, if one person's audio doesn't work for some reason, if their headphones plugged into the wrong port, or they don't have, the right IO setup, it is really easy. Like, it's plug and play. It should be whatever your system audio is set to for most participants. So troubleshooting isn't difficult, but if you're in a group of 25 people and you need to troubleshoot 4 of them, it might be annoying. But it's not impossible, and it's actually not that big of a problem in the grand scheme of things. Other things that you can do. So I'm the controller right now. You can tell that because my icon is yellow. So I have control of the session, and Eric and George has unsubscribed from sync again. He's editing something over here. But let's say I don't want to be the controller. Let's say George now wants to take control. Maybe I need to go for some reason. George can hit that yellow C button, and we see a pop-up that says George is requesting control of the session. Do you want to grant the possibility? If I don't do anything, it automatically gives it to him. And that's so if like somebody somehow takes control by mistake and they don't want to touch anything, they're not technologically inclined, they just want to sit back, you can take control back from someone without them having to hit any buttons. But there still is that check in case somebody hits that button by mistake and you don't want to give them control. But so now George has control of the session. I'll show you my hands in the air, and now George is zooming out. I can see he's jumping to a line. Do you want to count down, George, and hit play so we can see?
Yeah. And one thing just to keep in mind while we do this, you guys are seeing this over Zoom. So there is a slight delay with Zoom. If you're looking out on your side, there is no Zoom delay. So just a slight note in this very particular situation for the demo. So that being said, I'm going to turn off pre-roll and we'll say 3, 2, 1, play.
Out of your mind. And I'm both.
And it's instant. And I guess, Eric, can you vouch for us also? You're in the session with us. Is it immediate when George is hitting play that it plays for everybody else, or for you at least?
Yes, it's immediate over here. Yep.
And it's pretty, ultimately we're sending tiny packets of information. And that's why it's so quick. George hitting play is essentially sending like 1 bit of information to everybody else's browser to say that it's supposed to play. Now, there are some things that you should know. If you have an ad blocker on, then this won't work. You need to turn ad blockers off when using it. And that's a good troubleshooting tip. If you go into a session and somebody, for some reason, is saying it's not playing for me, ad blocker is typically the culprit. You want to make sure that you have ad blockers off. Also, it doesn't support Safari or Internet Explorer. So that's another thing to note. George, is there anything that we should add before we get into a demo of like the cadence, setting up an actor, recording a line, so on and so forth?
I think you hit everything.
Eric, do you have any questions before we get into that, or do you want to just get into that and then we'll ask questions later?
We do have a lot of great questions. I'll just throw in one right now, and then we'll get to a lot more later. This is from Mia. If there's multiple editors, can they undo their own edit or track without undoing another editor's work?
Yes. I'm 99% confident that the answer is yes, but I'll check on that. And
go ahead and just hit undo, Greg.
Oh, that's true.
Yep. That was not the last thing I did, so There you
Yep,
go.
I'm just undoing my own actions and
Yep.
not the other editor's actions, and I'm redoing them now. So great
So, yeah.
question.
Yep.
That's a
Each person
first.
does have their own undo stack. So
Yeah.
Just a bonus question since we're on undos, and then we can continue with the demo. Do you happen to know how many levels of undo are available?
A lot. I think as many, and actually something else that we're bringing into the session is the ability to just load an older session. So if you want to go back 20 minutes, you can go back 20 minutes and load that old session, because it's all in the cloud, and all the audio files are there. The actual session files are tiny, and you can go back and load. Well, it's not a feature right now, but very shortly you'll be able to do that. But until then, I mean, there's more than 32 levels of undo.
Great, thank you.
Cool. So let's get into recording and the cadence. So George, I guess, do you want to, I'll play the role of the actor here. Do you want to take control?
yeah. So take control from you really quick.
All right, go ahead. So I will be the actor, and we'll use some actual real world scenarios that have happened.
Very, very real scenarios.
So, we're an actor, and this has actually happened a few times. And okay, so I'm the actor. I'm using this this USB mic, which actually, this is not a plug, but I will say we love this mic very much. It's a Rode Ntg Video Mic for remote recording. It's a short shotgun mic that is USB, so it's plug and play. It's really easy for actors and for people who don't know how to set things up. You just plug the USB cable in. It records at a really great quality. Again, it's a short shotgun, so it's better than a large diaphragm, which is basically what every other USB mic is. This is better than those for ADR, but it also has some cool features. And then I'll stop the Rode plug because, again, it's really just because we like the mic this much. No sponsorship from Rode, but it has some features like it'll let you record with two diaphragms, with one of them having a pad on it, is it a 20 dB pad? With a 20 dB pad on it, so you can record two channels of the same angle. And if an actor suddenly starts yelling in the middle of a scene, you don't have a blown out version of that. You still have the backup from that second diaphragm. It's really awesome. Anyways, plug for Rode over. It's a great mic. They did a great job. So, all right, I've got my kit. It was sent to me. I'm plugged into the computer. Sorry if that was loud. I'm ready to go.
All right. So this is very real world for remote recording in general. So what we would do is I'm looking at him. I can see right off the bat. It's like, all right, Greg, you need to be talking into the end of your microphone, not the side of it. So if you could tilt it so that the end is pointed towards your mouth.
Oh, this isn't okay. So I'm going to go like this.
Yep.
All right. And then I want to be this close, or?
Nope. Let's stay back about a foot. We'll start there and see how we do. Again, very, very real. Yes, no, let's start there and see how we're doing.
Okay.
So I'm going to do a quick test recording of you, Greg. We're going to get our quality and make sure everything's good. So considering it is almost 8 o'clock at night, go ahead and tell me what you had or will have for dinner.
I had a nice capellini, angel hair pasta with a porcini marinara sauce, truffle porcini marinara sauce.
Wow, that's
fancy.
Definitely fancier than usual.
It was.
So,
yeah.
So I'm just going to listen back to this right now.
I had a nice capellini, angel hair pasta with a.
So again, over Zoom, you can't necessarily hear it, but on my side, I can hear everything. There's no compression, no ducking, no noise suppression that happens. And the first thing I would say is, okay, actor, make sure that you're not bouncing up and down in your chair as you record, because I can certainly hear that. Otherwise, that sounds pretty good. If I heard his computer fan, which is a real thing, we would address that. If his room was reverberant, we would address that. There's a number of ways. We certainly won't go into every possible scenario. But once I'm happy with that quality, his level seems good. I don't have any qualms with that. So I can just delete this. And this is just what we recommend for remote recording in general, one dub or not. So there's a free tip for you is, Greg, if you could just be quiet for a moment, I'm going to record room tone. So I'm recording room tone from Greg. It's just one of those better to have than not have kinds of things. So, so we get that. So if we need to use, RX or anything later, we can easily. So go ahead and stop that. And I'll just take it and let's drop it down to another track. I'll call that other track room tone, leave it at the beginning.
And there's a few things I would note here. So one is, you're hearing the playback over Zoom, but everybody who's in this session hears the 24-bit 48K uncompressed audio playing back in their session, and they get it near instantly. So once a take is recorded, it appears near instantly in everybody else's session. So you're recording from me. If you're in France, if you're in Spain, if you're wherever, you get the audio near instantly because we're actually splitting it up into pieces and then sending off those packets of information as we're recording. So it's not a live stream. And again, that's how we don't, it's not Opus codec. So we don't, we can record that 24-bit 48K audio, but it is near instant that you get to play that back. And the other thing I was going to note is you might notice we're talking and communicating over Zoom. We do use a web chat with the tool. So whether it's Skype or Zoom or what have you, we like Zoom because you can turn off like echo cancellation, you can turn off compression as much as possible and things like that. But ultimately, you're using Zoom to, if the actor is willing to share their video, to get a read on the room and figure out, are they at the right place in the room? Are they in a concrete room? Is there a lot of, do we immediately see that it's going to be a problem for recording? And then you use the audio in Zoom for the broad strokes of, is the mic pointed in the right direction? Are we hearing the mic? And then you use OneDub to hear that 24-bit 48K recording. And that's when you start doing your fine tuning of tweaking to get the sound quality that you're happy with before moving on to the recording.
Yes, absolutely. So you want to do a line here, Greg?
Yeah, which line did we, 9?
We'll do 9. I'll give you a preview so that you're not in the dark with this one. All right, here we go, listening.
Are you serious?
It was my call, gentleman's call. It was out. I might have to refresh my screen for a second. So one thing I will note is that we are on like our user acceptance test site version of this. So once in a while, a little ghost audio file appears.
There it is. Let's get rid of that.
All right, ready to go.
And I'm just refiltering.
And can you turn off the ducking also?
Yeah,
or do
absolutely.
I have to?
No, I got it. All right. Here we go for your preview again.
Here, it was like 2 feet out.
Are you serious?
It was out. It's my call. You say gentleman's call. This is my call. Out.
Blind.
All right, Greg, you ready for this?
Yeah, can you activate it so I can see the script?
Absolutely. I'll give you beeps as well.
And you know what? I'm actually going to go into full screen. I will be the true role of the actor.
Sounds good. And do
Here
you
we
want your guide in your headphones?
No, thank you.
All right. And here we go.
It was out. It's my call. You said gentleman's call. This is my call. Out. I don't know how good that was.
Well, yeah, we're going to find out.
So Eric, will you play the role of our director for us and let us know what you think, how, notes, anything?
Yeah, I would slow down just a smidge. I'm not sure if that's totally synced up yet, but based on what I heard, it sounded like it was a little fast.
Okay.
All right.
George, can you also make sure that the script start time is at the right place?
Yeah, let me listen to it really quick. Hold, please.
It was out. It's my...
We can adjust that a little bit.
side note for everybody, we had other content that we typically do internal demos with, but realized at the last moment that we never got clearance to use it for external things and things that will post on the internet. So we are using this this content at the last minute. So we're not as used to. We haven't checked the script or anything like that.
We don't know it like the back of our hand. So I'm gonna just check this really quick.
It was out. It's my
Okay, I think that's
Seems
pretty
pretty
good.
cool.
Got your beeps, you're active, and
And you know
There
what?
we
I'll
go.
go out of full screen this time just to show everybody what's happening, and maybe I'll hide the script.
but again, during all this, our actor can just sit back. I can do it. I can make any changes. If he says up, that timing seems a little off. It's like, yeah, I can adjust that. He doesn't have to worry about anything. I can just do it. And with that being said, here we go, Greg.
It was out. It's my call. You said gentleman's call. This is my call. Out.
Right. How do we feel
great to
about
me.
that, Eric? All right, I'm just going to sync that up. I can see that certain bits are a little out, so give me one moment. We'll play back. Let's see if we can tighten that whole bit up.
This is the part where the actor and the director usually have a conversation while George is trying to concentrate and hear
Exactly.
things.
All right, so let's play that back and see how we did.
It was out. It's my call. You said gentleman's call. This is my call. Out. Now, of course, for like levels and things like that, we would spend more. We'd set me up for like 10 seconds. We would probably spend a little more time dialing in levels. Anyways, Eric, our director, what did you think? Was that all right? Should we do another take?
I would do one more. After the very first part of the line, I think we can speed it up just a tad.
All right.
After the first part, it was out. It was. You know what? Can I have one more preview? I've only heard it
Yeah.
once.
Yes.
I'm also
absolutely.
not a professional actor.
Are you serious?
It was out. It's my call. You say gentleman's call. This is my call. Out.
Blind.
This is my call. Should I do it with an accent?
I feel like that's ill-advised.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, don't, please don't. All right, here we go.
It was out. It's my call. You said gentleman's call. It's my call. Out. Oh, I messed up the line. Well, we don't have to keep doing this because we can theoretically pretend that I am capable of delivering some good acting. In terms of sync, I think. Well, should we try to do it one more time? I don't know, Eric. What do you feel like we should really nail it, or?
I think we can make the previous one work, but if we have the time and the stage, budget, I would be up for doing one more.
Right. Okay. That's a very diplomatic answer.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So
And also I want to add, sorry, frame accuracy is part of the tool as well. You have frame accurate sync to picture in what you're playing back.
and I can nudge by a frame, just, it's like move it 3 frames up really quick. I can select it, move it, command left, 1, 2, that's 2 frames really quick. So really easy to respond to those kinds of requests.
Yeah. And the hotkeys are all really, again, the value, we talked about the value for the actor being able to sit back and the director having the notes and, having an as recorded script at the end of the session. The real value for the engineer is the familiarity, like the layout. Everybody can understand what we're looking at here, how to jump from a line to a line. And the hotkeys are really easy. When you're hitting record, you have Alt R, zooming in and out are all kind of like native for your left and right hand. Jumping to the next line is good for your left hand, space for play and stop. It all feels very comfortable.
And where we were able, we do mimic the Pro Tools shortcut keys. So because, we all know that's definitely muscle memory. So that is something where it's possible, we do mimic it. So
yeah, anywhere where there's muscle memory. Yeah, exactly. Like Command E or even time code Command equals. If I hit Command equals, I can type in a time code and jump to that time code. I think the other thing I was going to note, you might notice down here, it might not be very visible in Zoom, but we also show the average levels for each recording. So if you're recording a loop group, for example, and you do one take of 10 people, you could really quickly see if everybody is in more or less the same range. You know, you can see if one person's like 5 dB higher than another. You can really easily see that. We're also adding in an upcoming release a feature where this number will be red if there's any clipping or if you peak at or above 0 at any point, so that you can really quickly know, have a visual indicator of maybe this is clipping and maybe I should listen to this line again before moving on to the next one. Again, it's something that, we all do with our ears, but in a remote recording scenario, any little bit helps to highlight things that might have gone wrong. So that's the point of that. Now, the other thing that we can do, and I guess we'll jump to the end and then we'll get to Q&A. I know you guys have been really patient and awesome. I see so many questions in the chat, but the last thing we'll do really quickly is we don't have a group, but we have me and George. So we will do a 2-man group of Walla. So basically recording Walla. And do you mind if I take control back, George, since I'm sharing? All right, so I'll take control back. So basically I have my track over here. I'm gonna set George up on this track. Let's call him George Walla. We'll call this Greg Walla. And I'm gonna, so basically selecting an input for George, for which user ends up recording on this track. I just click on it and it'll let me choose who is going to be assigned to this track. So if you have 8 people assigned to be recorded in a session, it'll show you the list of those names, and you just choose who you're recording for each track. And I'll record enable this track. So now we have tracks 1 and 2 record enabled. Let me jump in my script to the Walla section.
I apologize in advance for my Walla acting. It is embarrassing.
We need acting. So we're going to start a GoFundMe for George and I to have acting classes for these demos.
I demand better.
Right. Sorry?
I demand better.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to, let's actually play through the scene a little bit. All right. So George, let's have you be the salesman over here, and I'll be the tall gentleman who's buying some sort of snacks.
All right, sounds good. I'll follow your lead.
Okay. And let's go to the beginning of this cue. I'm going to do no beeps just because we're not queuing too many specific ones.
That's not going to affect our performance at all, guaranteed.
All right, and here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'll have a pack of Butterfingers and
Butterfingers. Okay, yeah, Butterfingers, Jujubes. Yeah, no, that'll be $5.90.
And do you guys have a macchiato?
We do not. This is a train station, sir.
Oh, it seems like a great place to have a macchiato. All right. All right, so as you can see, I talked about how instantly this loads. This is George's track down here. So I got his audio near instantly. I don't even know where George, oops, jumped out of here. And let's play this back. George, I don't even know where you live, by the way, how far away you are. We'll talk about that another time.
I'm in Orange County.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. All right,
let's go.
Play. Yeah, I'll have a pack of Butterfingers and
Butterfingers. Okay, yeah, Butterfingers, Jujubes. Yeah, no, that'll be $5.90.
And do you guys have a macchiato?
We do not. This is a train station, sir.
Oh, it seems like a great place to have a macchiato. All right. That's pretty good. That's pretty good improv.
That was not too, I was, slow clap for us.
But so same thing for, if you're recording 8 actors 6 actors. We've tested very extensively with 6 actors. Finding the resources to test 12 actors at a time is a lot more difficult than you'd think. But we have done a few tests, and we're going to continue to do some more as time goes on. But it is a great solution for group. Again, you're recording that 24K, everything's synced up to picture. You don't have to like get a 4-hour long 16-bit 48K wave file from another remote recording solution that's not synced to anything and resync it after the fact. You basically record to picture. You make any adjustments here if you want to. You could bring it into whatever DAW you're working in. It syncs to picture automatically in there with that AAF export, and you're good to go. I think Mandel Winter, who might be here, described it, and I love saying it, but he described it as, you know, he was recording all of these remote ADR sessions, and then he used this tool, and he said it was like a blanket had been taken off of his speakers. That's a paraphrase, but I love hearing that. And honestly, I think that this is the best tool for recording remotely on the marketplace. And I think that there's also a lot of things that it lets you do and creative uses when it comes to the session sync and having multiple engineers in one session, or even just packing a USB mic in a laptop and, you know, a 4G capable, or better yet, a 5G capable phone, and doing field recording sync to picture is really, you know, the possibilities are limitless, and it's a pretty exciting tool. The last thing I'll say before Q&A is people, and I'm sure it's in the Q&A, is it licensable? Do you need to hire Deluxe? Does Deluxe need to be involved? If you want to hire Deluxe for ADR services remotely, we can absolutely do that. We can set that up, you know, with your standard hourly ADR fees, but we also license the tool. So if you would have a lot of use for it, or if you're a post studio and you want to bill other people for hourly rate for ADR using this tool, you can do that as well. So that being said, thanks everybody for your patience. I'm surprised that nobody chimed in and unmuted their mic and spoke. I think that takes a lot of good discipline, and I thank everybody for that. So let's jump into Q&A.
Yes, thank you everyone for your patience. We have quite a few questions, so we'll start near the top. Baylon asks, Greg, you said that once queues are set up that we can export sheets to the talent and supervisors. How would that look from this platform? So
it looks like, well, there's a few different options. You can export Word documents. You can export CSVs. I'll see if I can maybe send some different examples of options we have to put up on the MSP site. But yeah, there's a lot of different options. But ultimately, it could be a queue sheet in kind of a grid format, or something that looks like, you know, very similar to some of the other ADR queue managing exports as well.
Okay.
That being said, I would say if there's any requests in terms of, you know, I want to click one button and have 50 different types of queue sheets exported, I'd be interested in hearing what people want.
We have a question from Marilyn. Can you customize the hotkeys?
No, not right now. It's something that we were thinking about doing in the future, but from a support perspective, we figured it would be better to keep them as what they are, so that if people call in with support requests, we have a one-to-one, you know, people are speaking apples to apples. I would also add that it's kind of the hotkeys, we've worked painstakingly on making them as close to what you're used to as possible from some existing DAWs, and in other areas, maybe improving to where it feels more ergonomic. There is a challenge with hotkeys in that we have to fight what hotkeys are available for, you know, Google Chrome. So it's not all of you don't have the whole expansiveness of a whole keyboard like you would in other DAWs. But short answer is no, and the explanation as to why followed. But it is something that we plan on doing in the future.
And just to elaborate slightly on that, as Greg said, they're as close to Pro Tools as we can get them everywhere, but also, as he also showed, they're searchable. But if you skim through the list, there's enough of them to be useful, but not so many that you couldn't easily be up to date with them, after using the tool for, I would say, half an hour, 45 minutes, you're like, okay, that's how I use this here. And it's surprisingly simple just to be like, okay, that's it. So just wanted to say that as well.
Yeah. And I would say that most of them are kind of standard hotkeys. I wouldn't say that, I'd say that they're standard and ergonomic. It's, we came up with, we've done some UX research as to where the hotkeys sit, how to use UX designer work on it. And but soon they'll be customizable.
We also have a guest who's raising their hand. Mia, you have a question? Mia, you there? We can move on to another question for now. Also, in terms of customizability, Paul asks, can you move the script to another place on the screen, such as the top or in the middle?
That's a great question. And no, right now it is video on the left, script on the right, and then DAW on the bottom. The only thing you can do is hide it or show it. But that's something that we'll note down as a request.
And actually, I'm just going to jump in. I have a feeling he's talking about the on-screen script.
Oh,
the answer still is you cannot currently, but if you want to elaborate on that at all, Greg.
Yeah, no, you're right. You can't currently. That is something that I think we should be adding. Here, let me jump to some lines so that we can see the script on screen. So you're talking about moving it around on the screen. No, we can just make it bigger, smaller, and then we have this option, where it's again kind of like a Rhythmo band style script.
Which, for the record, that bit is still very much in development. So
yeah,
just to say that, but again, this is our testing platform, which is why we are seeing it right now.
Yeah, that's a good distinction. The Rhythmo band is not available on live today. We're still testing it to make it a little less choppy as you play through.
But it's great for people who are terrible actors, such as myself. I can say that for sure.
Yeah, but this is the standard script, and this is available today.
We had a couple people ask this question. Sam and Murnaz had asked, can you have a second guide track for ambient fill, or say you want just multiple guide tracks at once?
I have no idea how I skipped that. Thank you. Was it Sam and who else?
And Murnaz.
Sam and Murnaz, thank you for asking. Yeah, you can import audio. So if you want to import a file from your desktop into the session, you can import it. You can then copy that, move ambient fill, take ambient sounds from it and move it onto other tracks, do what you need to do. So you could basically choose a file from your computer. You can upload it to a specific start to the start of the session or a specific time code, and it imports it onto a new track.
And again, just to elaborate slightly, the original / guide track that you see there, that one is not editable, and that comes from what's embedded in the video. But the importing, as Greg said, you can do that from your desktop. So you could send that, if in the situation, you're hiring a service from Deluxe, so they would set it up, you just add these and say, yes, add these as additional guide tracks. They'll be imported before you get in. Or if you're in the session, you're like, I really want to reference this, you can import it, whether it's an old recording, just ambient fill, whatever. So very easy to do.
Great. Balon asks, are we able to do circle or mark takes for specific takes or portions of takes that are selects?
Circle or mark takes. Well, you can click on them. You can mark them as complete, but it basically automatically marks them as complete as you record the audio. I don't think that this is answering the question, but it did make me think of one other thing that I wanted to mention is beeps. If we have beeps set up for the beginning of a cue and we decide that we're going to be punching in, in the middle of a cue, then, oh, by the way, that's the audio that I just imported. Again, it uploads into the cloud and then it renders. So that's why it took a few seconds, but I just imported this track to the beginning of a session, and I will be deleting this track now. But so let's say you have 3 beeps on this cue. If I punch in to the middle of the cue, it'll automatically serve you the 3 beeps to where you're punching in, not at the beginning of the cue, which is a nifty little thing for beeps management. But did that the circling the takes, George, do you want to jump in?
I think he's more, referring to like, if you have an eddy cue printout or something, you're looking at, like the engineer one where you can circle a particular take that is, your select take. There isn't a way currently to flag a select take or, an alternate take. You can use the notes for that. We generally use, the notes, and like the top track would be your select track. I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but I believe in the future there will be more of a refined select track process.
Select heroes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
So in terms, I guess in terms of circling, which is your hero take, you would take that note over here under annotation or your internal note, and then that would live against it. And you could send that to the dialogue editor so that they know that the take for this line, are you serious? If you say take 3 is the hero take, they'll get that information with the time code of the line, the character, the line itself, and whatever you chose, whatever you wrote in the note.
A question from Steve. When recording group, are you limited by the slowest connection? For instance, if one of the actors is having connectivity issues, will everyone else's recording suffer because of that?
No, they won't. That one actor's, well, first of all, that actor's recording won't suffer. The quality will still be there. It will still be good. It might just take longer for you to retrieve that audio from that actor, but nobody else's audio will suffer. Just, the way that we saw here, and it happened really quick. So maybe not everybody saw it, but you saw me recording my line. Once I hit stop, maybe half a second later, this audio appeared for George. If somebody was on an ultra slow connection, then it wouldn't appear. If we had 5 people with fast internet, their 5 tracks would appear immediately. And then the slow person might appear 10 seconds later, something like that. And it wouldn't be at a lower quality. It would still be at that 24-bit 48 quality.
And just to hop in, one thing about that is I don't think we talked about internet requirements and just general recommendations for computers and equipment, but it's actually very low level entry for internet. It's 10 megabits per second down to up is the recommendation. It's not the requirement. You can certainly do it with slower connections. We absolutely have, but that's where you start to notice things might take a little bit longer. When I say things, I don't mean pressing play and having that happen. It's the upload of the clip and then it being available to everybody. But doing that, you can always go on worst case, if they have a really slow connection and you record a take and it takes a little bit, if you move on to the next line, you can always come back and listen to it. That is absolutely worst case, but it doesn't stop you from recording. The quality 100% does not suffer based on internet connection. And in general, I think that 10 down 2 up is pretty accessible to most people nowadays. And as far as other just really quickly, specifications is, I think Greg said it at the beginning, but just to reiterate, we don't currently support tablets or phones. So it does need to be a proper computer of some kind running Google Chrome. And we recommend 8 gigs of RAM. It can work with fewer, but if you're doing a group situation, it's really, if there's a lot of audio and you have less RAM, then that user's performance might suffer. Everyone else's will be just fine because everyone's kind of independent in that sense. So you might run into some issues there. For group actors, I have found that they're pretty well set up nowadays. I think we've kind of gotten over the hump of them, getting into remote recording. So they're all pretty up on it because they have to be. But yeah, just really quick, that was that.
Yeah, I would say, to add to that, in terms of I only know of one session in which the internet was so slow that we had to move on to next line and then wait for that. And that was a case where it was an actor in Chile who had a 3 megabit down and 200 or 300 kilobit up. So like internet from 1997 speed. And that was the only case that we had to move on to another, just for the expediency, moved on to the next lines and then went back and played back. But to be honest, I think that on top of that, since then we've improved the performance. At that time, we weren't sending chunks of audio. I don't know why I like doing this when I say chunks of audio. The chunks of audio out into the world. It was recording the whole line and then uploading the whole, 30 those takes were like 20 seconds long. So I don't think that would really happen. But the point of entry is really low. And George made a good point. 8 gigs is recommended. You can record with 4. If you were just recording one actor, that actor being with 4 gigs, 99% of the time is fine. We've done over 2,000 recordings now. And a lot of it has been in different countries with slow bandwidth, low performing machines. And we haven't really had too many issues that I've heard of. And in those 2,000 sessions, I think there've only been 3 that we just straight up couldn't record. Yeah. And in those cases, it was one computer that had 2 gigs of RAM. One person had a really like a $10 microphone with a really high noise floor and in a loud computer. And I think the other one, I don't remember what the other one, but it was an equipment related issue.
I had a question from a couple of people. Sam and Kevin asked this: if you're in a situation where the actor and director are talking and you're trying to engineer and do the work, is there a way to put them offline or mute them while you're cutting?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, if I wanted to edit these lines and George and Eric were chatting, I could turn sync off so that when I'm playing back, they don't hear that. So now I'm playing back and they don't see this playback. On their web browsers, everything looks like I was just still on that frame. But then if they're talking and it's annoying and I don't want to hear them, you guys can't see this. And this is a Zoom thing. This isn't a OneDub thing, but I could basically disconnect from audio on Zoom. So I won't be able to hear them. They also won't be able to hear me until I connect back to the audio. But so if you want to do that, that's basically what we do. And it's not just Zoom. I think Skype and Microsoft Teams and a few other of the video conferencing tools allow that as well. So yeah, there is a way to do that, and we make use of that pretty often. And also a note, people ask, why isn't there a video player and a communications channel built into the tool? And the answer to that is that, there's already tons of those that exist and are really good at what they do. So rather than spending the resources to build a video conferencing service, we decided to use those resources to build a killer app for recording remotely. And then that leaves the preference open to the users of what's the favorite, teleconferencing service that they want to use.
Yeah, that makes sense. Brent asked a similar question on the topic of Zoom as well. When you talked about you're using Zoom as you're communicating with people in the same session, are you using Zoom on the same device with the same mic source as in OneDub?
Yes, and it's preferred to do that. You don't have to do that, but if you have a lot of different devices, it becomes kind of, muting might become an issue. Unless you set somebody up where they're using one device. Yeah, muting kind of becomes an issue, and that becomes something that the engineer would end up having to control to make sure, like, especially if it's the actor, that you're muting their device that's not recording when you record and when you play back and things like that. It can become an issue. It's a little bit annoying. So it is better to use the same device. It's not absolutely necessary. And George mentioned, we don't support tablets or phones. That being said, I know that the sound editor and just the sound community in the industry like trying to break things and test things out and try things differently. So, I've plugged in the same mic, the Rode Ntg USB short shotgun. I'm just kidding. And wait, there's more. No, I've plugged in that mic into my phone. I know I have an Android phone, but I've plugged the mic into my phone, logged into the session, had George remotely control the session, went into full screen and was able to record audio that way as well. We don't officially support that, and I definitely wouldn't, bet on that being an option. But if sometimes a Hail Mary is needed, it's something that you can do.
Shen asks, is it possible that engineers can record different actors at several different places across the timeline at once?
No, we can't. Sorry, I was like, I think so. And then I realized, no, we can't, because essentially the session sync, only one person controls playback. Maybe in the future we can do like different sync groups and things like that. I wouldn't hold my breath for that coming out in the next few months. But the answer is no. I don't know, George, if we can maybe if you're in studio, maybe you can do that. We've never tested that out. So that's something that we'll be doing tomorrow.
That would be interesting.
And we'll get back to you tomorrow. George, we could have an actor, director, and engineer all synced, and then another person that's just set up as a recording computer, recording themselves, like in studio.
Wow. We could certainly try. I can say for sure. Yeah, I can say that in a single session, you cannot do that because only the person who has control can initiate a recording. So even if you're off sync, you can't initiate your own recording. So
that's
if you have, say a case that nobody really wants to deal with, like for most things, is if you have an actor recording themselves, they would have control and they can do that. But if you go off of sync, and say you wanted to record yourself because you're like a fancy group actor and you just really know everything, you can't do that. It would still be the person who has control is the only person that can actually initiate sync.
That being said,
recording. Sorry.
So that's a good point, George, and thanks for thinking of that, because you saved us 15-20 minutes tomorrow. The other thing though that you can do is you could just spin up another instance of OneDub. It's a software and it's a cloud-based software. So looking at my session here, I have 3 different sessions. I can jump out of this session and then go into this session with a different actor and record in that one. I'm not going to let this load because we don't have the rights to play that video in this session, but creating another recording job out of this is just like a couple clicks of a button, and you can spin up another recording job, assign the actor to that one, and you can record, the second actor against the same picture that way.
And there was one thing I wanted to mention, and it really did make a difference, and I forgot as you were talking. So never mind. If I think of it, I'll say it. Otherwise, we can just move on.
We have a question from Scott. I'm sure it's on a lot of people's minds. What are the rates for this? How much does it cost?
That's a great question, and I should have talked to our PR person first to see are we telling rates out loud in front of everybody? I will say that if you go to onedub.com and inquire from there, then you'll get a rate within 10 minutes of sending that inquiry, depending on your time zone. In terms of ADR, I think we could share that because it's just a standard ADR rate. It's actually, maybe I shouldn't. I don't want to get myself in trouble, but if you want to just throw everything over the fence and have Deluxe do the ADR, provide the engineer, and set up a session, as a line item on a PO for a show, then it's just the same as or not exactly the same, but very comparable, maybe even less expensive than our in-studio ADR rates. And then we can also send mic packages out to people and so on and so forth. The licensing rate, we offer 2 tiers, and we offer monthly or yearly. Yearly is at a discount. And one tier basically limits you to 3 people in a session at a time. So director, actor, engineer, or whatever. And then the higher tier allows you to have unlimited actors logged in or people logged into the session. But yeah, onedub.com. If you go to that site, there's an inquiry button. There's a cool little commercial that we did. There's another little demo somewhere, or maybe it was taken down. And you can inquire here and fill out a form. And you just hit this button and then write an email asking for pricing, and we'll send you pricing.
This will be our last question of the night. Ben asked, what are the mic packages you send, since you mentioned it?
Oh, so happy you asked, because we have this wonderful Rode Ntg. That is one mic package. I'd have to defer to Deluxe Audio, but we are working on like a rental partner if you want to choose different mics and interfaces and things like that. But we can very quickly send out a package, this easy package of this short shotgun mic. But there are some other options. I don't know exactly what they are. This is definitely the most convenient. In terms of tools and things that you can do that, other tricks of using the tools, like one really cool example is if you're working on a show and you have ADR, you're working on episode 1 and they're shooting episode 2, and you have ADR lines for an actor to do. If there's a break or if there's some time, you can actually just send a session to the on-set sound recordist, have them load up OneDub, use the short shotgun mic or use whatever mic they're using on set for the dialogue in the place that they record the dialogue, and have them do ADR there really easily. So that's another really cool, or you can even sit in on the session, control the session, have the boom operator operating, and run the session on set from your studio. So I think that's one of my favorite, like, cool, fun uses of the tool that I think is really going to be impactful, because you'll have the onset sound, you'll have the same mics. As much as actors love driving to Burbank to do ADR, they're not going to, they'll probably rather do it on set or somewhere else. So I think that's one of the places where this tool shines. But again, you guys are all, you're all nifty. I'm sure that you guys will figure out other ways to do this. And I'm looking forward to seeing other ways that people can use these tools.
And just adding to that slightly before Eric cuts me off hard, because I can see it in his eyes already, as Greg said, I guarantee that you guys are going to, come up with, different ways to use this that we haven't even thought of, but just a few other ways that, you can use it. And it's really nice is, I'm sure you've all been in that situation where it's like, all right, we need to do, this is, pre-COVID. It's like, all right, we need to do remote ADR where our ADR supervisor, director, sound soup, whomever is actually, overseeing the ADR is at a studio in Hollywood. Our actor is in Canada. And it's like, okay, we need to do that. Well, let's rent a room. Let's do Source Connect, so we're paying for a room. We might be mixing in that facility as well. It's like, okay, so we're paying an hourly rate for that room as well. Okay, what can we do? How can we make this work? If for that actor who's in Canada, it's like, what, let's just set up a OneDub session, whether it's one that's facilitated through Deluxe or yourself in studio. They could be using OneDub. That's fine. And your director can just be on the dub stage or, wherever they are. If they're at home, even, they can just open up their instance of OneDub, listen to it, and they can easily monitor the session without having to rent out another room, deal with Source Connect at all. Because, I can certainly say that is one of my least favorite activities. So it's just a really quick way to be in the session without, additional costs incurred from a whole other room that's really not especially necessary, with the tools that we have at our disposal now. So that's just a simple example, but I mean, it can be used to supplement, actual, brick and mortar facilities. Like, we're out of rooms, we just need to spin up another room,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. I could go on for far too long about that. I'm really curious to see what
it's-
you guys say.
It's a great point. And one of the reasons that you can do that without having to worry about content security being, all up in your business about it is because of the security of the platform, the IP address overlay, the user logs. You have multi-factor authentication when you log in. Nobody can download video. We actually had a session recently to talk about security for one more second, in which one of the actors, and this was on a pretty huge show, unreleased content, like a tentpole show, and one of the actors logging in had some sort of malware in their browser that would download videos from different streaming services, and it attempted to download the video from the session, and the session shut it down. We actually couldn't record, and for a second we're like, why can't we record this actor? And we figured out what it was. And so the security is really buttoned up on it, and that allows you to easily spin up more space without having to worry about, like, do I need to get the retina scanner and the fingerprint scanner and the 2 keys to open the door and so on and so forth. Yeah, thanks, George. That's a good point, and one that we missed. I will also add, if anybody has additional questions, I see that there's a ton that we didn't get to. So I think if anybody else has questions, you can use that contact form on onedub.com. I will actually receive that email, so be easy, please. But if there are additional questions, please use that form, and we'd be happy to answer anything else you have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and
Eric.
no, yeah, thank you guys. Thank you all for all the really incredible questions. Really insightful and wonderful questions. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them here, but definitely really great questions. And Greg and George, just want to thank you so much for your time and for presenting this really very impressive platform.
Thank you
Thanks
for
so much.
having us very much.
Yeah, thanks. It was really a pleasure. See you guys all soon, and I'm definitely going to join the next one of these. This is a fun little platform.
Thank you. And thanks so much for coming, everyone. We'll see you at the next MPSE Sound Device event.
Thanks
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you, Eric. Well done.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.